Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have is the Kohetsu SLD Nakiri 165mm knife. So this line of knives has a 3-layer construction. The center hard core cutting edge steel is composed of SLD semi-stainless steel. It's a kind of a high-speed tool steel, and heat treats typically around 61-62 Rockwell. They have a full stainless cladding, a soft stainless cladding on either side of that hardcore cutting edge steel. It's hard to show on video because it's actually kind of faint in person, but there is a cladding line towards the edge there. I'll see if I can show it to you. They've got a fair amount of polish in these, kind of a half polish to them, so they're a little shiny in the lighting here. But the steel works really well. I've got a couple of these knives. I use a 180 Gyuto all the time in my knife drawer right now. And I've been using these for a couple or more years. And the steel's quite good. It's easy to sharpen, holds a nice edge. Edge retention's not great on it, but it's very easy to sharpen and is fine-grained and will take a really, really nice edge. It behaves almost like stainless in practice as long as you don't let the knife sit wet for a long period of time. And the stainless cladding is really stainless in my experience. It's full stainless. The weight and dimensions on these can vary from knife to knife, but this particular one is 167 grams or 5.9 ounces. Edge length around 165 millimeters, given some of that usable portion of the front curved tip here, or about 6.5 inches, and the overall length about 308 millimeters. The spine thickness, these are generally pretty thick coming out of the handle. It's pretty normal for these. And then they thin up pretty rapidly. And they typically have a decent grind on them as far as height goes. So performance typically is pretty nice on these. The spine on this one was about 4 millimeters at the back. And then it quickly transitions down to about 2.3. And then maybe slightly less than that as you get towards the end of the spine. They're fairly stiff blades, kind of a little bit stout. And, but you know, they've got a confident feel on the cutting board. The blade height is about 51 millimeters at the back and then about 53.5 towards the front. So it gets a little taller as you get towards the middle and front part of the blade. Handles are just your basic octagonal ambidextrous walnut with a black peckerwood ferrule. Always a good idea on these knives with these thicker tangs or necks that go into the handles to check carefully to make sure everything is sealed up well. If it's not, you know, use the sealant of your choice to make sure no moisture gets back in there in the tang. Circumference on this handle is about 73, maybe 74 millimeters where the two materials meet. You've got a good spot here in the neck and enough distance there to get your finger in there for a good spot for a pinch grip. Balance point, as you might suspect, most of these Nakiri knives, you've got a full height blade all the way out to the end, so that brings the balance point a little forward because you got a lot of meat out there. And so that steel, does weigh something, of course. So here is your balance point on this, and you can see for me, it's kind of actually pretty close to a pinch grip. So this particular one, sometimes these can be a little farther forward, but just depends on the knife. But that one for me, pretty much right on the money for my pinch grip, and maybe slightly forward of that. So it gives you just a little bit of feel with some muscle behind it. The fit and finish on these is typically quite good. As I said, I've been using a couple different models of these for a while now, and I've always found them to be quite consistent on the fit and finish. The grinds, straight blades are just well made, and you get a lot of value for the money with this line of knives for sure. So they do have what appears to be hand chiseled kanji or hand engraved kanji on the right side of the blade. It's kind of small, but it is there. And then there's some embossed kanji behind that. And then every blade has a little different pattern, but you've got this kind of lattice work, crisscross pattern. The depth of that, how far it's pressed into the sides of the blade, will vary from knife to knife. And as they work on it, some of the times that'll get kind of sanded smooth in certain areas like this one. They've got a fair amount of polish to the blade, especially this blade road area down here. And then it's hard to see, but there is a cladding line there. Every knife's going to be a little bit different. They do a nice job of taking a little extra time to polish the spine a bit, relieve just a little bit of the corners of the spine, and then the corners of the choil back of the blade here into the neck. So very comfortable out of the box, nothing needed there. Out of the box edge, these are usually pretty sharp. I'll give it a 6 out of 10 on my scale out of the box, although the steel will get very sharp. Let's look at the cutting board profile. So here's our cutting board profile, and you can see this one, and every knife's going to be a little bit different, but this one is kind of a fairly low, kind of gentle belly, and a little bit of a stop towards the heel, not much. It's not super flat, but pretty flat, and for a Nakiri knife, this is probably pretty good kind of medium profile, so you can do some chopping, not super flat, so it's real hard to use, but you've got the rounded tip on the end there, which means you can rock these. So if you want to rock it over some stuff, you can do that. But just a good all-around line of knives, consistently good fit and finish, nicely made, easy to sharpen steel, almost maintenance-free with that semi-stainless core, and just a good value all around. So this is the Kohetsu SLD Nakiri 165mm knife.